Welcome to another session of Basic Mathematical Analysis class. Today we will discuss the characterization of open sets. This is the theorem. A subset R is open. A subset R is open if and only if it is the union of countably many disjoint open intervals in R. That is, we want to prove that a subset of R is open if and only if it is the union of countably many disjoint open intervals. So first we will take a set G and we will say that that set is open. Now we want to prove that that set is the union of countably many disjoint open intervals. For that, what we are seeing is we will take a set G such that G is not equal to empty. Now from this, we have got the real line. Here somewhere we are taking a set G. Suppose this is my G, set G. I have taken this as my set G on the real axis. Okay. Now X belongs to G. We will take two subsets of this. We will split this into AX and BX. How we are splitting means somewhere in this G you take an X. Okay, so I'm taking an X over here. So I'm taking an X belongs to G, comma G is open. Now from this X you go this side. That is, it should be closed interval X, and this side when you're going I can take this as A, such that A belongs to R, right? So in this fashion we can take one set, and this set is AX. That is, AX equal to set of all A belongs to A belongs to R such that AX is contained in G. Similarly, BX I can define from here to here. That is, from closed level X to some B, where B belongs to R. Right, from here to here I can define like that. So Bx is equal to set of all B belongs to R such that XB is contained in G. So up to here is contained in G, like that we are taking. So remember these two set definition. Now we will say that since the set G is open, this AX and BX are non-empty. What is the reason? Since the set G is open, the set AX and BX are non-empty. Since we are taking a set G, suppose this is my set G, and here I am taking as my point X. Now our AX means points in this sides and BX means points in this sides. G is open and X belongs to G. So X has got an neighborhood, epsilon neighborhood, which completely contain inside your G, right? That's the definition of open sets, right? For if X belongs to G means I'm having an epsilon neighborhood of X, that is X minus epsilon, comma X plus epsilon. This is a neighborhood of X which completely contain inside G. So whenever I am taking points over here and points over here means evidently I will get points in my set AX and points in my set BX. That's why we are saying that the set AX and BX are non-empty. Now if AX is bounded below, next we are taking this AX. Okay, what we are going to do is from this set AX we will take a point, and here also we will take a point, and we will go for an interval. And we will say that, or we will prove that this interval is completely contained inside G. That's our first step. So here we can split up into step 1. So if the set AX is bounded below, we set AX equal to, so AX is bounded below means it should have a bound over here, right? So here if there is a bound means we will take infimum of AX. Infimum of AX as small ax. And if it is not bounded, we will say that ax is equal to minus infinity. Similarly, in the same fashion, we can go for bx also, where bx should be the supremum of the set capital Bx. And if it is not bounded above, we will take bx as infinity. But we can note in these two cases that here we have taken ax, here we have taken bx. This ax is not belongs to G and bx is also not belongs to G. What's the reason? Take ax. What is ax? Ax is the infimum of ax. So if this ax belongs to our G means, see, this is G, ax belongs to G means it should have a neighborhood, right, which completely contain inside your G. If it is like the case means you can go for a point in this side. Then this is less than ax and which belongs to G, right? This point, if I am taking this point as y means y is less than ax and this y belongs to G also. So this is a contradiction to the fact that our ax is going to be the infimum of ax. So we cannot find this ax, and same way bx also. Bx we are taking supremum. So if bx means, again you can take a neighborhood of epsilon neighborhood of bx, and in that epsilon neighborhood evidently there should be points between bx and bx plus epsilon, right? So these 2 points ax and bx cannot be in the set G. This is our first step. Next, step 2 is that with these 2 points ax and bx, we will define an interval. Now define Ix, that's equal to open interval ax bx. Now this Ix is an open interval containing x, no doubt, right? Since we are taking, first we have taken x, and ax this side element, bx this side's elements, and here whatever the elements is there, we have took is infimum, and here what are the elements, we have taken the supremum. So supremum of x should be always less than or equal to this x less than or equal to supremum of bx. Sorry, infimum of x less than or equal to x less than or equal to supremum of bx we will get. So evidently when I am writing like this, here, this infimum is ax, this supremum is bx. So x may be less than or equal to x less than or equal to bx, right? So Ix equal to ax bx, then Ix is an open interval containing x. Now we claim that Ix is contained in G. So for that what we have to do? We have to take an element over this interval and to show that that point belongs to G. So as our usual method, we are taking a point y belongs to Ix, and if y belongs to Ix, if I am taking the interval as Ix equal to ax comma bx, and we are taking an element x also. So y belongs to Ix. That's the meaning is it will lie between these two. So either it should be y less than x or y should be greater than x, right? So first we are considering this case, y less than x. So we are taken a point y belongs to Ix and y is less than x. It follows from definition of ax that there exists, what is ax? Ax was the infimum, right? So since ax is the infimum and y is less than x, it follows that there exists another point belongs to ax such that that point is less than y, right? Since y is not a lower bound, right? Since y is not a lower bound, there should exist a point a dash such that a dash is less than y. Hence, what you are having? This y belongs to open a dash closed x, and which is completely contained inside G. Now, similarly, if y belongs to Ix, and x is less than y, what will happen? See, here you have got, you started with a y belongs to ix, here you have got that y belongs to g. Now similarly, if you are taking x less than y, then we can find this b dash such that y is less than b dash and y belongs to closed x and open b dash, which is contained in g. Now what is follows? Y belongs to ix means we will get ix belongs to g, since we are taking this y as arbitrary. Okay, so that's our step 2. Then if this is the case, now I have got, if I am taking an x belongs to g, I am getting an ix is contained in g. Then if I am taking a y belongs to g, similarly I will get a iy contained in g. So go for this collection, ix iy such that collection. So I am taking the collection as union x belongs to g of such intervals. So definitely this will result g, right? So since x belongs to g is arbitrary, we can conclude that this union of interval is nothing but g itself. So our step 2 we have finished here. So in step 1 what we have seen? First of all, we have taken an open set g equal not equal to empty, and we have defined two sets with respect to x, ax and bx. Ax means members from this side, bx means members for this side, intersection g, right? Now we are step 1, we are using the idea that g is open. Okay, since g is open, ax and bx is non-empty, and if ax is bounded, we can select an ax. Selection of ax and bx we are doing in step 1, and we will show that this ax and bx are not an element of g. In step 2, what you are going to do is, with these 2 points we are creating an interval ix, and next what you are going to do is we will show that this ix is contained in g, and since x is arbitrary, we can take that g is equal to nothing but union of x belongs to g of ix. Okay, so step 3 is, we claim that if xy belongs to g and x not equal to y, then either ix equal to iy or ix intersection iy equal to empty. That is, we want to show that these intervals ix and iy, whenever x not equal to y, these two intervals are disjoint or identical, right? If x equal to y means ix should be equal to iy. If x not equal to y means ix intersection iy should be empty. This is the thing we will prove. Now for that, what we have to do? If we are taking an element ix interval iy, we should get a contradiction. So assume that xy belongs to g and x not equal to y, and we will take a point ix intersection iy means, if we are getting a contradiction means it shows that there exists no element in ix intersection iy. So suppose some z belongs to ix intersection iy. Now ix and iy were defined as infimum of this ix is ax, supremum of iy is by. So if z belongs to ix intersection iy means ax less than z less than by, right? This follows from z belongs to ix. Now what was the set ix? Ix you are taken as open interval ax bx. So this meaning is that ax less than z less than bx. Similarly, z belongs to y. See, intersection. So z belongs to iy. So this implies in the same way ay less than z less than by. So these two conditions we have got it here. So ax less than or equal to less than z less than by and ay less than z less than bx. We can combine these two. Then ax equal to ay. Suppose not. What will happen? If ax is not equal to ay, then we can go for the law of trichotomy. That is, what was that? If two real numbers are given, a and b, either a should be equal to b, or a is less than b, or a is greater than b. This is the law of trichotomy. So we are seeing that ax, suppose ax not equal to ay, then these two conditions, any of these two conditions holds. Then either ax should be less than ay, or ay should be less than ax. Now in case 1, what will happen? So ay belongs to ix, which contradicts the fact that ay does not belongs to g, right? Since if case 1 is holding means ax is less than ay, so this ay belongs to ix, right? If ax belongs to ix means ix is an interval contained inside g. So this ay is contained in g we will get. But previously we have seen that ay does not belongs to g. Since g is open, it should have an epsilon neighborhood. So it should have a point from this side. It is not possible to contain inside g, right? Now similarly, if case 2 will happen, what will happen? Case 2 is ay is less than ax. Then ax belongs to iy we will get. Then again which contradicts the fact that ax does not belongs to g. Right? Therefore we must have ax equal to ay. Can you follow? Here we have assumed that if we are getting such a condition, that is, if z belongs to ix intersection iy, then ax and ay should be equal. If not, we can go for law of trichotomy and we will arrive some contradictions. Now what we want to prove next? Now we have assumed that, or we have proved that G is nothing but union of intervals and disjoint open intervals. Now we want to prove that these intervals are distinct and countable. Here we will prove that it is countable. For that, what we are going to do is, first we will enumerate the set Q of rationals. We will enumerate Q of rationals. Then next, in each interval it contains a rational number. Why? Each interval contains a rational number. What's the reason? By density theorem, right? If two real numbers are given, in between there exists a rational number, right? So in each interval we can find a rational number. Now take that rational number in this enumeration and go for the least index term, right? So ix contain rational numbers. We select the rational number in ix that has the smallest index n. Then what we have to do? Now this smallest index n such that irn equal to ix. Thus the set of distinct rational intervals ix, x belongs to g, is countable. Can you follow? No. See, you are enumerated Q as R1, R2, R3, etc., Rn, etc. Now what you are going to do is, you have got Ix, some interval, Iy, and Iz, Ia, like that. So many intervals. Now in this, you can find each interval, you can find lots of rational numbers. From ix, you take that rational number which has got the least index. See, 1, 2, 3. This enumeration has got an index now. 1, 2, 3. Suppose this contain R3 is the least one. And suppose this contain R2 is the least one. And this contains R10 least one. Here it is coming as R some 100. If like that means you will have an order here, right? First is coming is IY. Next is IX. Right? First coming is IY. Second coming is IX. Third coming is IZ. Third one. Next coming is IA is in the fourth place. So you can have a 1 correspondence with 1, 2, 3, etc. That is set of natural numbers, right? So we can have a 1 correspondence between set of natural numbers and such intervals. So what does this means? This means this collection of interval is countable because we are finding a 1 correspondence between the set of natural numbers and that intervals. So it corresponds with the subset of n. Hence, this set of distinct interval is countable. So we have proved that this is our step 3, right? Step 4 it seems. Step 4. So in step 4 we are showing that this interval, collection of interval is countable. Now step 5 is that. In step 5 what we have to do? Step 5 I have left you as an homework. Show that the representation of G as a distinct union of open intervals is uniquely determined. So what we have to do now here, I will give you the clue, you have to finish it. So I have expressed G as union X belongs to G of IX. Now you take some other notation, G equal to union of some Y belongs to G of some JX. Now we want to show that these two are equal. Right? If you expressed like this, we want to show that the expression 1 and expression 2, these both are equal. So two sets it is. Union X belongs to G IX and union Y belongs to G JX. You know how to prove two sets are equal. So I'm leaving this for you to work. So today's session I'm winding up here. So today we have discussed what is the characterization of open sets. That is, a subset of R is open if and only if it is the union of countably many disjoint open intervals. Okay, hope you understood today's class. So thank you for your patient listening. Thank you.